So today we're going to work on some hamstring flexibility and kind of get to the place where we can do the splits. So, I think don't be alarmed. Don't leave just because I said that. Right? Stay, even though that's a little scary sometimes to think about doing the splits. But really, if you have enough support, anything is possible in life. And the splits are no different. So let go of the idea of, having splits be something that is down to the ground, and really instead think about trying to create a sense of expansiveness in your body, where we can have ourselves stretch to the boundary that's comfortable for us, but allow us to open. So one of my favorite things, if you can get over the fact that none of us can actually do the splits, if you can get past that and just experience what it feels like to have an open hamstrings, open legs, really. It's not just your hamstrings. There's a lot of work in the hip flexors and in the groins that have to be free to be able to do a pose like that. So really let that be the goal of your physical practice today, is just feeling a sense of expansiveness and allowing yourself to touch the edges of your boundaries in a very graceful, kind way without going past. So many people have had hamstring issues in their lives, whether they've had little micro tears or big, huge tears, or just something that's gone on. And so be very careful if that is you. If you've had some issues with your hamstrings, you want to make sure that you're really respecting your boundary lines and not going past boundaries. Okay, so if you don't know the story of Hanuman, Hanumasana is the posture of the splits. Hanuman, he's this monkey god who has a deep reverence for the divine, and that is the guiding force of his ways, but he also has a bit of mischievousness to him. Ultimately, his loyalty allows him to have these giant leaps. And he, in the Ramayana, it's an epic story of him being able to leap across the ocean to Sri Lanka and to leap across the Himalayas. So it's really, you can harness the energy of Hanumasana as a sense of not only cultivating expansiveness for yourself, but also leaps of faith. I think it's so easy to shrink and get comfortable in our typical ways, our routines, where we move in the world, how we act, who we relate with, what we do. And the older we get, the longer we do it, the more we can shrink into those roles. So our job is to kind of break free and allow expansiveness to come. Maybe it's trying something new, learning a new skill, listening to new music, reading a new book, doing something unexpected in your life. These are the gifts of expansiveness that come from Hanuman and Hamanasana. So go ahead and close your eyes and sit up straight and tall. And think about ways in which your experience, maybe all the years that you've experienced something, has both expanded you, helped you grow, but also perhaps over the years, is there any way that you have solidified? Have you shrunk in any way and kind of condensed into a judgment or a way of thinking or a way of moving, or a way of being in the world that could be shook? You could shake it loose a little bit. Have you taken a leap out of your comfort zone lately? Can you allow yourself to be comfortable in the uncomfortable? To have faith that when you step down, the earth is there to support you. Can you allow your sense of devotion to whatever you are devoted to, whether it's your own well-being, a higher spirit, people you love? Can you allow your devotion to help you expand? So move these ideas out of the mind and into the body. Feeling your breath, feeling the expansiveness of your breathing. Melt the shoulders. Feel into the state of ease that can come from consciously relaxing some muscles. All right, place your hands together at your heart and let's bow into the practice here. Offer an intention for what this hour can offer you. Let's release the hands and find our way onto our back. All right, so as you come to a horizontal, enjoy. All right, just allow yourself to get comfortable with your body. Okay, so whatever's happening today in your body, however you need to modify, remember to seek a sense of grace and a sense of respect for where you are. Okay, so stepping outside your comfort zone into expansiveness does not mean hurting yourself. Okay, so let's always know the difference between some stretch in the mind or body that is good for us and something that takes us a little too far. All right, so let's reach into the right side, reach into the left side, enjoy. See if it can feel good to just awaken the body, feeling your shoulders stretch, your hips. All right, and then as you're ready, bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, swaying from side to side. Okay, check in with your back. How are you feeling today? All right, let's circle the knees. Kind of roll in one direction. And then roll in another direction. All right. Bring your right knee into your chest and stretch your left leg long on the floor. And just hang out here for a moment, feeling a deep sense of compression in the hip. And then open up the other hip, let your left leg be as long as possible. Start to move around your feet. Just wake up all the tiny little nooks and crannies between your bones and your feet and your ankles. Okay, and then let's switch sides. So left knee comes in, right leg stretches long on the ground. Feel into the compression. And you might know your body well enough to know that you have one side might feel very different from the other. Feel free to move your feet. Maybe you have a history of a trauma in your body on one side. Maybe it's just a different movement pattern that kind of affects your body left and right differently. Okay, so just take yourself into the fold. Let all be okay. No judgments or expectations. Bring your knees back into the chest, and we're going to open up the knees away from the midline and bring the knees back. Okay, so just finding that sense of awakening, opening. All right, so just feel into the hip joints themselves. Bring your focus and your attention into the way your femur bone feels in its socket, okay, on both sides. And then pause in your most abducted version of this, so knees apart from each other, and just notice, this is an end point of your range of motions. Just notice what your hips feel like. Can you support your hips a little bit with a little activity in your core? All right, and then relax and bring the knees back together, chin up, hug in. And then expand open to a star. Stretch your fingers and your toes when you're out there. Maybe you want to squeeze your muscles a little bit. All right, and then on your next exhale, chin in, knees up. Okay, expand open. Big breath in. Exhale. Drawing it in. All right, relax your head onto the ground. Grab a strap. Right foot in the strap, lift it up in the air. So remember, we're only going to the place where our boundary is, and then see if you can just allow yourself to expand within the boundary that you have. So we're not shrinking, we're finding the full length of our spine, the fullness of our breath, the fullness of our hamstrings. So with your right hamstring, spread it wide and lengthen it up. Feel free to point and flex your toe that's in that strap. And remember, your left foot can be on the ground or your left leg can be on the ground. So whatever feels, you're going to get the same stretch in your hamstring regardless, but it might change how your pelvis and spine feels. So just pay attention. Okay. All right, so see what it feels like when you're stretching your hamstring to move your right femur bone down in the socket and feel the sense of expansion through your spine. So we're trying to keep that sense of elongation and open up the right leg out to the right. So adjust with your left leg. You can have your foot on the floor or your leg on the floor. If your foot is on the ground, you can let your left knee fall out to the side if you want for some balance across your pelvis. So we're just opening up the hamstring here. Now our inner thigh gets to open up a little bit too. All right, and then bring that leg back up in the air. We're gonna cross the right leg over to the left. So you can have your left leg straight or bent still, you decide. Feel into the work of the outer hip opening now, still expanding through the spine. Try not to shrink your body. So notice if there's any area of joint space that you tend to collapse into or shrink, see if you can expand. And come back. We're going to come into half happy baby pose. So grab onto your right foot. Your left foot can be on the ground or straight, your choice. Drop the knee, right knee toward the rib cage. Extend the spine. We're gonna cross that right foot over. We're gonna bend the left knee, put it underneath your right ankle, reverse your pigeon. Okay, so find that stretch in your hip. Feel free to move a little bit. You can rock if you want. You can be still. Feel the expansiveness in your spine no matter what you're doing. All right, so breathing here. Having a deep hip stretch this early in class sometimes can be a little hard, so just notice. Okay, and then we're going to unwind that and stretch your limbs all the way out to a star. Exhale, knees into your chest, head up, and then left leg is going to come in the air. If you don't have a strap, you can always just hold behind your leg. All right, so decide whether you want your right leg to be bent with your foot on the floor or your right leg straight. See if you can get the feeling that we're rooting the left femur bone down toward the ground, but at the same time reaching up through the shin to the sky. So you have two opposing directions, and feel the same with your spine. We're lengthening up, we're lengthening down. Feel free to flex and point your toe while you're here if you want. Just enjoy the feeling of opening up the hamstring. Full breaths, melt through your skull, find a sense of ease. Widen out the hamstring as best as you can. When you're ready, open up the left leg out to the left. Feel a sense of length through the spine, crown reaches, tail reaches. If your right leg is straight, stretch it down into the earth. How's your breath? Try not to go anywhere without it. This is what's going to allow you to feel expansive. The more we hold our breath, the more contracted we usually feel. All right, bring that leg back up. Cross the left leg over to the right. Hold the strap in the right hand. Move your left femur bone away from your shoulder. Just feel a sense of space. And then notice if you tend to want to externally rotate that leg in the air, instead, find a little bit of an internal rotation of that femur bone. Lift that leg back up. Find your breath. Half happy baby pose on this side. Grab onto your left foot with your left hand. Right leg can be long or right knee can be bent. You choose your pathway. All right, so feel the compression. Drop down into that, the weight of that hip joint. As you're ready, cross the left foot over to the right thigh and come into reverse pigeon pose. You can hold the back of your thigh. You can always do thigh over thigh pose instead of reverse pigeon if that feels better for your body. All right, so breathing here, breathing well. Relax what you can. The shoulders stay soft. Maybe you want to move around a little bit, which is all good. You can kind of rock left and right or do some circles, whatever feels nice. All right, and unwind that. Bring your knees to your chest. We're going to just rock a little bit left and right. A little bit more work to do on our back before we get up. This time, legs come up in the air, but we're not going to hold on to them. We're going to keep them up there without our hands. Your arms can be down at your sides or up over your head or out to the sides, whatever feels good. Find your breath. Reach into the extension of the spine. Femur bones moving away from shoulders and dropping into the earth. Support with your core. Okay, we're going to slowly lower our legs down. I have a piece of furniture in the way, so that's why I'm bending my knees. But you can go straight or with knees bent to lower your legs down to the ground. All right, find a sense of ease. Let your whole body melt. And then one more time, starfish your body out. And knees into your chest. Come over onto your side and come up. All right, so find your way onto all fours. Start moving through some cat-cows as you're ready. Enjoy all the openness of your spines. Whatever feels good, letting your spine move freely. And any kind of movement you want. You can do some rolls through your ribs, rolls through your pelvis, sways from side to side, wagging your tail, moving your head. Just try to get free in your spine. All right, and then walk your hands forward, come into puppy pose, and just feel a little bit of a back bend here, a sense of stretch open through your spine. Your hips are high. And then walk your hands back, come onto all fours again. Inhale, left arm coming up to the sky. Exhale and slide that shoulder down, threading the needle. Feel into the way your spine is opening. Let your neck be as soft as possible. Relax. All right, and then inhale. Reach that arm all the way back up. Hand down onto the ground. Second side. Arm comes up. Exhale, slide that arm through. Gaze toward the floor. Full breaths in and out. Neck is relaxed. Enjoy your breath here. Enjoy the feeling of your stretch. And then reach that arm all the way back up. Hand comes down onto the ground. Dog pose. Lift yourself up. Allow yourself some time here to feel into the posture. Feel free to move your feet around, stretch your calves, pedal your feet. Let the backs of your legs open up a little bit. Okay, maybe one knee bends, the other hip lifts. All right. After a few rounds of that, let yourself melt into the fullness of your pose. So grounding the four corners of your hands, grounding across the base of your feet, pushing off the earth to feel that extension. Remember, your knees can bend. What can you do to feel extended in the spine, that elongation, vertebrae by vertebrae? Then walk your feet forward, come into Uttanasana, fold, relax your neck. Feel free to wag your tail, shake around, do anything that feels nice. Halfway lift, the spine starts to grow again. Thigh bones back, then melt and fold. Push off your feet, rise all the way up, come to the sky with your arms. Okay, sense of expansion. Open yourself up. Just pause here for a moment. Bring your arms out if you want. Just welcome in the energy from above, from below. Feel the roots grow. Feel a sense of expansion in your heart and chest. Okay, and relax and melt the hands. Give them a good shake. Okay, find your breath. All right, so a little bit of twisting here. Allow, we've done this lots. You can have your legs a little wider than your hips if you want, however it feels comfortable. You can bend your knees. You can lift your heel up as you're twisting. So just letting your spine get a little free. How's your breath? All right, now start to do some more squats. With this, you can slow this down. All right, and then we're gonna end in a squat. All right, so come inside your knees or on top of your knees, feel into the hips and rock a little bit. Get weight into the left foot, get weight into the right foot. And then balance yourself, ground you, the four corners of your feet, still elongating the spine. A little extra challenge, either take your arms back behind you, out to the sides, or overhead. See if you can keep the elongation of your spine, even though your hips are doing strong work. And then rise up, bring your breath, open up, and enjoy the blood flow that just arrived into your legs. All right, stand in Tadasana, finding the breath. Rise up, arms up. Exhale, and float forward, relax your neck. Halfway lift, spine gets longer, melt and fold. Step your left foot back, come into a lunge. Find your way here. Let's start to open that hip flexor of the back leg. So before we start moving, feel that the crown, the tail, and the back heel are this one giant long line that you're stretching out onto. Feel the hip flexors of that back leg open, and then start to move where we're opening the hamstring by straightening the front leg and opening the hip flexors of the back leg as we lunge again. Okay, so get used to this asymmetry of the pelvis. As you start to move asymmetrically, left and right are not doing the same thing. Can you feel a sense of balance across your pelvis, that you're not hiking one hip higher or pushing one hip forward? See if you can just keep a sense of balance. All right, walk your back foot in some. Feel free to go higher on the blocks if you need it. Parsvottanasana legs. You can take your left foot out to the left, your right foot out to the right, whatever gives you a sense of balance. So our legs are straight. Root into the big toe mound of that front foot as you reach the hip back, extending the spine spaciously. Fill up your breath. All right, so we have the feeling of stretching our hamstring now. Press your front heel into the ground and drag it back a little teeny bit. All right, hop up onto that right foot. Lift your left leg in the air. Now, often when we do half splits, we hang out with our leg just parallel to our spine. We're in line with our spine. So I want you to feel this first. Square up the hips as best as you can. You can soften the knee that you're standing on. Inner thigh of the leg in the air lifts. And then see what you can do to tip down toward the ground with your torso. And your leg lifts up in the air a little bit more. Be mindful to keep the pelvis square as you do this. Doesn't matter how low you go or how high you go, we're just moving in that direction. Great, and then a big giant step back to a lunge. Open up the heart Exhale, straighten the leg. Finding a lunge again. I know this is a lot on one side. You can do it. Bring yourself up to a lunge. Now focus on what's happening through the front of your pelvis and that back leg. See if you can open that up a little bit. Reach into the air so that you're extending into the hip flexors. Try not to crunch into the low back. Support with your core. Stretch into that back heel. Straighten your leg if you can. And then melt and come down. 2 hands on the ground, back to a dog. All right, so seek symmetry now. We just did a lot of asymmetry. Enjoy the symmetrical nature of your pelvis and legs. Come forward into a plank. So there's a difference between contraction and stability. So in a pose like this, can you feel that you're sturdy? You know, that you have some stability. And yes, you're contracting muscle fibers, so there's stability in your muscles, but it's not a contracture of tensions. See if you can relax your neck, expand your breath, lift the inner thighs a bit. And then put your knees down and lower yourself to the floor. Roll the shoulders a few times. Then take your hands wide out in front of you and stretch open into a really big wide cobra. Reach your legs, reach your heart, extend through the whole front line of your body. The neck is easy and gentle. We're not throwing our head back. And then melt and fold. Okay, pick up the feet and rock left and right. Come back up onto all fours, maybe back to child's pose, maybe a little swishing around. You know, what helps you? What feels good in your spine after a back bend? All right, so let's go ahead and find our way. Left foot comes forward now. The right leg is behind us. We're coming into a lunge. Before we start moving, expand. Shoulders away from the ears. Feel that you have a line through your crown, tail, and back heel, like you're a road that just stretches on forever. Open up the hip flexors of that back leg. And let's start to move. So feeling the hamstring open up. And feeling the hip flexor open up. And take your time. If you like to move slowly, move slowly. If you might like to move more quickly, move more quickly. Notice how your breath is working with your body. All right, and then seek into your lunge again. Ground your legs. We're gonna walk the back foot in some and straighten both our legs here. You can bring the blocks up higher if you need that. Square up the hips. Pay attention to the asymmetry of your legs, but the balance across your pelvis. Inner thigh is rolling back, sit bones wide. Especially that left femur bone, nestle it up and back, like up into the hip and then down a little bit so that you have some space in the front of the joint. Lengthen your spine again. Keep the neck neutral. Drag your front heel down into the ground, pull it back so that your hamstring and glutes actually engage while you're stretching. This is very protective to make sure you don't overstretch. And then as you're ready, bend your knee. We're gonna climb up onto that left foot and come into half splits. Extend through the spine. Can you have a sense that you're both working your hamstring and stretching your hamstring simultaneously? Once you're organized here, just notice, how does this feel compared to the other side? And if you're ready and able, lift your leg up and your torso down. And it can be a millimeter off of half splits. Don't feel like you have to pull your torso down toward your leg. Of course you can if you want, but you do not have to have goals in mind. Just go where breath takes you, where boundaries take you. Expand the spine. All right, as you're ready, a big giant step back to a lunge. Get your feet where you want them to be, and then rise up to crescent lunge. Okay, bringing the arms expansively. So maybe it's up, maybe it's out. What's going to give you that sense that you have all this room in your heart, all this space in your spine? Okay, breathe into the hip flexors opening. Try to not compress into the lumbar spine. All right, relax and bring your hands down to the ground. One more time, dog pose. Enjoy the symmetry, the sense of balance. Breathing well. Come forward into a plank. Hold yourself steady. Full breaths here. All right. Find our way to the ground. Inhale, a cobra pose. Exhale, and melt to come back down. And move your blocks out of the way. Bring your left knee up high toward the armpits and feel like you could have a weight kind of sitting down on the right side of your pelvis. Breathing well. All right, then we're going to turn this into a twist. Take your right arm over to the left side of your mat and twist open. Arms wide like a V, palms up, back of hands on the ground. Let the knee leave the floor. Expand through your heart. Feel that this pose has so much space. Coming back to center. Over to the other side. Now our right knee is up toward our armpits. You can be in Sphinx pose or lower, whatever feels good. Feel into the pelvis. See if you can let the compression of that one hip happen and the openness of the other. Full breaths, neck soft and long. We're going to turn this into a twist. So left arm crosses over to the right, open up to a twist. Back of hands on the ground, palms up, arms out like a V. Big breaths. Let the knee leave the floor. Your right knee's leaving the ground. You feel your chest expand. All right. And come back onto your belly, up onto all fours, and move things around. Swish your spine around, sway. Breathing. Okay, dog pose when you're ready. And when you come into these postures, see if you can feel just a little more depth. With each pass through, do you have a little more openness in the body? And this doesn't mean push past your boundaries, but just notice if your boundaries are opening, if you're getting more expansive. Even out your roots through your hands. Hug your hands toward each other so that you're assured to be working some muscles in your back instead of just your shoulders. All right, lift your right leg up in the air, stack and open. Feel a deep sense of space. You can bend your knee if you want. And then square things up. Bring that foot forward to a lunge. Hands on blocks. Shorten up your stance. Take your right foot out to the right a little bit more if you need to. Okay, Parsvottanasana, one more time. Square hips, extended, long, spacious spine. Let's lift our front toes off the ground. So make sure your hands are on blocks. Lift your toes off the ground so that you just feel the Achilles and calf open a little bit more. Then place that big toe out and ground it. Root the hip back. And then come up to stand. Revolves, triangle pose. Reaching the left arm up in the air. Extend that spine. Bring your hand down onto a block or maybe 2 blocks. Whatever feels spacious and stable for you. Now try not to let the hips pop out to the side. Integrate into the core. Inner thighs rolling back. Try to keep the pelvis balanced so you're not hiking one hip higher in the sky or out to the side. Extend your spine. Find that road from crown to tail again. And if you're able, lift your arm in the air and see how expansive you can get your spine to feel. Breathing well. So twist within the space that you have. So the long spine comes first before the twisting. Ground through your feet, inner thighs moving back, hips are parallel. And then reach and relax. Bring your back foot coming forward. Fold, melt, relax your head. Inhale, balanced posture, halfway lift, evening out your legs. Okay, relax and melt again. Step your right foot back. Now your left foot is forward. Parsvottanasana. I won't forget about the three-legged dog. We'll do that at the end. Okay. Square the hips, inner thighs rolling back, root through your foot, both feet really, but feel the four corners of your feet, root to rise, move through that hip, allow the left hip to root back, and then for a moment, just lift your toes so you feel the Achilles and the calf stretch. And now notice what happened in your spine. When you deepened the stretch in your leg, did you contract your back at all? Return to the long, spacious spine. We're trying to stay expansive, not contracting. Root into the foot again, four corners, long spine. And then we're gonna rise on up. Bring the left arm to the hip, right arm comes up in the air. Find your breath, reach forward, hand on block or blocks. You might have two blocks to see where your body is at. Keep the hips in line with the spine. Root the femur bone of that left hip back, drop some weight into the big toe. Once you have the groundedness of your legs, the width of your pelvis, the stability of your pelvis, the length of your spine, then find your twisting. Maybe your arm comes in the air, maybe it doesn't. Seek into the breath. Stay grounded in your legs. Keep that left hip in instead of letting it pop out. In and back and down. All right, relax and melt. Hands down onto the ground. Lift that left leg high in the air, three-legged dog. When you're ready, stack open the pelvis, stretch into the hip. And then melt and fold that leg back down. Come forward into a plank. Full breaths. Lower yourself down to the ground. Come onto your right side. Grab onto your left ankle with your left hand and just come into a quad stretch here. Enjoy. So even though Hamanasana doesn't necessarily open our quads in this way, one of our quadriceps is a hip flexor, and that's the one we want to kind of get all the fibers of it to open up. Big breaths. And then relax. Roll over onto your other side. Okay. Grabbing onto your knee. Now the leg that's on the bottom, you can bend that knee. You don't have to be, on a tight rope. You can be a little bit more broadly based to support you. Bring your heel toward your buttocks, your tailbone toward your knee, your pubic bone toward your belly button, and stretch your whole femur bone. Relax. Go ahead and find your way back onto your belly. Come up onto all fours. Move things about. All right, we're gonna come onto our back for a moment. Breathing well, finding a bridge pose. Lifting your pelvis, lifting your shoulders, coming onto the four corners of your feet. Open up through your breath. Feel the expansiveness somewhere in your ribs or in your spine. Remember to fully exhale. And then lower your pelvis down. Grab your block. We're going to stick the block on either the lower middle height underneath your pelvis. Stretch your right leg first, arms overhead. Right heel is stretched down onto the ground, right leg is straight. Now, if this feels okay, let's just try both sides. Now, bend your right knee, put your right foot on the floor and stretch your left. Now, only you can tell what your back can handle. Okay, so you might need to just repeat one leg at a time, but check out and see what stretching that right leg and the left leg at the same time might feel like. So if you can manage this with your spine, try it. If not, bend one knee, stretch one leg at a time, take a few breaths, and then switch sides. All right, so we're opening up our hip flexors. See what it feels like to stretch your arms, to feel that expansiveness in your spine, to stretch your heels. Breathing well. Okay, and then relax that. Bring your knees toward your chest. A little bit of traction for your back. Breathing well. Hopefully that was not too much for your lumbar spine. So just notice, are you keeping within your boundaries? All right, relax and melt that. Roll over onto your side and come onto pigeon pose with your right leg forward. If you want to, you can stay on your back and do reverse pigeon pose or thigh over thigh pose. Just trying to stretch into your glutes and your hips a little bit differently. Expand through your spine. Now see if you can keep, just for a moment, keep yourself elevated instead of coming down, where you feel the stretch through your spine. And then you can melt and come down and put your block underneath your head. All right, so as you move through this pose, your breath is really important. Start to give the cue with your breath that you can find a little more expansion, a little more spaciousness without going past a boundary. So know where your boundaries live. Practice the art of touching against your boundaries and not going past. But sometimes when we touch our boundaries, we expand our bodies naturally. We expand the boundary. We're going to come back up onto our hands. Bring that leg around and switch sides. If you're in reverse pigeon pose, just change sides on the ground. Use support. I have a blanket underneath me. Maybe you need support, maybe you don't. Just find the way that works best for you. Lengthen through your spine here. Find that sense of space before you come down. Have a couple of breaths of feeling the expanded spine and open heart, and keep that expansion as you lower your head down. So we're not hunkering, we're not collapsing, we're not shrinking, we're expanding. Melt the base of your skull, feel the support of your head. If you're in reverse pigeon pose, let the full weight of your head come onto the ground. Back up. Swing that leg around. All of us are going to sit, and it's helpful to sit on the edge of a blanket, I think. Put your left sit bone on the edge of a blanket and your legs are off to the right. So the top of your right ankle is resting in the arch of your left foot. All right, so twisting. So my sit bone, one sit bone, so for you it'll be your left sit bone on the blanket. The right sit bone kind of hangs down into the pocket. Reach the arm up, other hand behind you to support, and twist your spine. How is your breath? All right, come back to center and change sides. Move the blanket underneath your right sit bone. Your feet are off to the left. The top of your left ankle is resting the arch of your right. Your left sit bone's kind of hanging down into that pocket. Right sit bone supported. Right hand behind you, left arm lifting first, and then bring it to the outside of the right knee. Drop the shoulders, open across the collarbones and twist. Now it's easy to kind of push your chest forward. Try to drop some weight into the pelvis, opening across your sternum, your collarbones. Down or out rather to rest. Get on the edge of the blanket. We're going to open our legs out to the sides. Now, once again, you're going to find the boundary that's right for you. Now, for me, I'm kind of struggling with a little bit of a hamstring issue. So for me, I'm going to put my one leg right where it can be, and then I'm going to match. Even though I can go much wider than this, I'm going to match where that attachment inside of my hamstring feels okay. All right, and then lift up through your spine and come forward. Now you can bring your hands behind you. You can have your hands in front of you. You can put a block in front of you and put your elbows on it and rest your head in your hands. There's lots of ways to come about this posture. So go where you go. And you might feel after being here for a breath, your body can expand a little bit more. Into the breath. All right. Let's bring our knees into our chest. Just condense. I feel that all of the places that we've been stretching to the end points can now soften, like a rubber band that's been stretched out and now is relaxed and soft. Okay. Release the posture, and we're going to find whatever we need for Hamanasana. So you might need, and you might not have what you need depending on, your house. So you might need bolsters, blankets, pillows. Couch pillows can do really a great service for us. And when you do this posture, maybe I'll show this from the side so you can see. I'll show it very bent, not going very deeply, so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to use my blocks here. So you might find that this is enough support for you. And you might be like, oh my gosh, that is way too low. So now I need to start stacking the stuff up, right? So you can just find what you can find. And notice my back knee, can you see that? My back knee is very bent. Okay, so I'm gonna start with that bent knee and start to inch my front leg straight. And then I just go where I go. Now my hands are supported, so I don't have to sink my weight down. I can lift up and be expansive. So the posture does not have to be, you can hold yourself with this openness of your chest and the support of your hands, almost like you would hold yourself in an up dog. See if you can feel that sense of expansion. Okay, and just let your legs go into whatever amount of stretch they are able to find today. Okay, breathing deeply. Okay. And then relax and come out of there. And we're gonna find the second side when we're ready. So remember, this pose is all about seeking expansion. Now look how high I made my prop here. So I'm gonna protect my hamstring that's a little tweaky. All right, so I'm putting my back thigh on all this support to start. I have my back knee on the ground, and then I'm shifting my weight so that my front leg is on that support, okay? And you can have blocks, you can have whatever supports the lift of your spine. So just find the way for you to find the openness. Once you're here, notice the hips. See if you can feel things being square, that we're not compressing into our lumbar spine. We're trying to reach out, flex the toes up toward the sky, stretch the back leg wherever it goes. We're trying to hug our femur bones, both of them into the pelvis, so we balance the pelvis. All right. And then whenever you feel like you've been there long enough, you might be just getting there because of all the props. You take your time if you need to have a little more time there. But when you're ready, we're going to find our way into child's pose. If you want to do a supported child's pose with a bolster or a blanket, you can do that as well. Breathing deep, breathing full. All right, last dog pose. Take your hands on the ground, stretch. This is just to get some bilateral. You can even bring your toes to touch if you want. We just want to have some evenness through our pelvis, balance across our pelvis. And then walk your feet forward, come into Uttanasana. Your feet can be close or hip width apart. Relax your head, bend your knees. Notice if you kind of lean into one foot more than the other. Halfway lift. Melt. And we're going to come down onto our backs. Okay. So lie down on your back. Bring your knees into your chest and just rock. Nice and easy. Breathing well. We're going to grab our feet if you want. Happy baby pose. You can still be rocking. You don't have to do this. You can keep your knees right together. All right, now we're going to find our way into Shavasana. Now, I would recommend some support underneath your knees, whether it's blocks with a blanket on top, or just blankets, or just blocks, or bolster, whatever you've got. I would support your legs into a little bit of a bend. And then if you get there and you're like, no, I don't like that, then ignore me and you do you. So imagine that you had a weighted blanket on you or some sandbags on your thighs and on your pelvis. So there's a lot of weight coming down, letting your legs rest. At any time you want to get rid of the props and be flat, that's fine too. You do you. So let's relax into symmetry here. Enjoy. Melt your limbs as best as you can. Melt through your face. deepen our breathing. Don't move yet. Just breathe. Feel that you can maybe take your arms and legs a little wider apart. Breathe fully. Let your body have a full sense of expansion. Start to move your body whatever way is comfortable. Eventually, finding your way onto your side. Coming up to sit as you're ready. Let's place the hands together at the heart. Offer your energy to another. Share your care. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.